Hello, everyone. Colette here. I wanted to go live on YouTube, so I thought I'll just do it. I'll just go live on YouTube and I'll also go live on LinkedIn and on Facebook. Let me just bring my microphone a bit closer. So this morning I wrote a post. I haven't actually published it yet because it's gone out in somebody else's group. And I wrote the post and it's going out in an email a bit later on as well. And the post is about being creative and boosting creativity because personally, I think creativity is an essential human skill. It's the kind of skill that is often undervalued and underrated, and yet most desired by employers, by co-workers, by peers. People value creative thinking and creativity, but they don't value investing in it. And I find this to be quite sad. But I just want to talk about, I think, some of the common misconceptions about creativity. Firstly, that creativity, people often confuse that with artistry. In fact, I myself used to. I used to think that in order to be more creative, I had to be more artistic. I didn't realize that creativity is a journey and it's essentially problem solving. Artistry is just one expression of creativity. Other expressions include scientific advancements or entrepreneurship or cooking a meal for a family when you've got limited ingredients. All of these are creative thinking and using creativity. Humans are designed to be creative. Now, personally, I specialize in brand design and I specialize in building brand identities. Oops, a daisy. Sorry, that's to remind me to pick up my son. I specialize in building brand identities through content. So I specialize in something called content branding, where I treat the branding, so that's the style of the content, and the content as a unified whole, not as two separate things where you pay for somebody to do your branding and then you pay somebody else to write your content, and then somehow or other you have to marry them together. Rather, we look at content branding as a whole, as something that is valuable to your overall message. And I think that when I was writing this post this morning, and I'm going to actually read some of this post to you, if you don't mind that I actually read. One of the things that the core purpose of it was to point out the idea that in order to build a brand, whether that's online, in the online space or in the real world space, in order to build a brand, you have to consistently not do the same as everyone else. That doesn't mean you have to be deliberately different. It just means that you have to find your own way and you have to be consistent with it. And the best way to do that is to understand your brand. You can just make things up as you go along, but you can't do things differently unless you know what's different about you and unless you know what's the same about everybody else. And so it's not always easy to do things differently. It can be a bit of a journey. But also, one of the biggest sticking points that I think many people find is that in order to do things differently, that takes a certain amount of creative thinking and creativity, and it takes an element of courage. Now, courage is essentially just a decision. It's a decision to act, even if you're feeling afraid or worried or fearful about something, you still make the decision to act. That's courage. Creativity is simply problem solving. And that is a skill that can be developed and improved with practice. We are all creative thinkers. It's just that we don't often exercise the creative thinking parts of our brains. So today I just want to share 3 top tips that I think, well, I know help boost creative thinking and courage. The first is that whenever you hit a roadblock, that now I'm reading, whenever you hit a roadblock, a problem, or difficulty, ask yourself, how can I? Right? Then try to find one answer to the question and another answer. So try to find more than one answer, then try to find alternatives. Number 2, embrace uncertainty. Creativity comes from not knowing. We don't it's the act of not having the answer that generates creativity. So when you ask that question, how can I, and you don't have the answer, that there, that's the space that you fill with creative thinking. So every time you ask the question, how can I, and you think, well, I don't know how to do that, that's you blocking creative thinking. To be more creative, to generate more creative thinking, to be bolder, you have to push through that gap and accept the fact that you don't know something and be joyous about it, revel in not knowing. Set yourself the task of learning, even if it's uncomfortable and even if it seems pointless, right? If you've got a little bit of time every day to learn something that you don't know how to do because you're wondering how you can do something, that is how you boost creative thinking and find creative solutions to complex problems that other people don't do. Because most people will give up as soon as they think, I don't know how to. Your task as a creative thinker is to go, I don't know how to, so how can I? And you fill that gap. Okay. Even better, once you've learned what you need to learn to do what you needed to do, then you share it. You don't keep it secret. This is the magic of creative thinking. So, the act of sharing what you learn encourages you to look at what you've learned from a different perspective because people will ask you questions. People will not understand what you're talking about. It will force you to look at what you've learned from different perspectives, which in turn deepens your understanding. Plus, in the act of sharing, you're boosting your authority, which boosts your brand. And because you're learning things that other people haven't taken the time to learn, you are setting yourself apart and, in essence, being different to everybody else in your industry, which builds your brand. You see where I'm going with this? It all interlinks. It's magic. You cannot build a brand, a strong brand, without these things. Any brand out there that has a strong identity utilizes courage and creativity. They are constantly asking, how can I? And when they hit that, we don't know how to, or I don't know how to, they break through it and find answers. That's where the magic is. Okay, so this is really important. Okay, now number 3, and this is the bit that I think not enough people do. Maybe they do, I don't know. But this is to explore without objectives or goals or targets. In other words, do the opposite of usual business practices or even usual anything practices, to explore for no reason other than to explore or discover or see what happens. It's the act of being a child, the act of play, right? The act of understanding, the act of seeing what happens if. This is where magic happens. Sometimes you may discover nothing other than that all the things that you've just played with don't result in anything, which will save you time down the line. If ever you need to solve a problem, you'll know what doesn't work because you've taken the time to play and explore. Right? It's magic. So here's a trick for you. So if, for example, you use a piece of software regularly, maybe you use I don't know, maybe you use Canva, right? So a lot of my tutorials on YouTube are about Canva and how to use Canva. And typically I try to find wonky ways, as in think wonky. I try to find wonky ways to talk about Canva, or different ways to approach Canva, or different ways to design on Canva. And the way that I do this is by following this strategy, basically. So set yourself a timer, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, whatever it is, and just play with the different tools and settings for no other reason than to see what, if anything, you discover. Now, it doesn't have to be Canva. It can be anything. It can be Microsoft Word. It can be an Excel spreadsheet. It can be the Google Chrome settings. It can be whatever it is, right? You just play to see what will happen and to see what you can discover. The only objective is to play. That's it, with no outcome, right? No pressure, no results, pure exploration. That is the key to creative thinking. Ask yourself, how can I? When you don't know how, revel in that as an opportunity to learn. Share that learning and don't be afraid to explore for no reason other than to find out what you can find out. So does this work in practice? Yes, absolutely. A week ago, I asked myself, can I draw realistic fire in Canva? Right? Is that even possible? Like usually I use Adobe Illustrator or Adobe Photoshop. So I know the tools and tricks in there to be able to draw and illustrate and create elements and create graphics. But Canva sometimes can feel a bit clunky or a bit limited, which again, by the way, is a bonus to creativity. It forces you to think creatively. It's magic, right? Anyway, I was like, can I do that? And I thought, well, actually, I've got no idea how to draw fire. None, got no idea. So there is my opportunity to learn. I looked at fire. I saw pictures of fire. I read about fire. I looked at people who drew fire. I explored. I failed. I learned. I tried some different ways in Canva. And then I put them all together until I was able to draw realistic fire on Canva. But then I didn't keep it a secret. Now, I didn't need fire. I don't need any fire in my branding. None of my clients need fire. I don't need any fire in any of my artwork. I didn't need it. I did it for no other reason than to explore, right? I had no clue. So I discovered how to do it. Then I shared it on YouTube. There is a link somewhere. Then I shared it on YouTube. I think it went out yesterday, how to draw fire in Canva, right? Now, not many people have viewed it. That's not the point. The point is I then had to think about how do I teach this information to other people so that they can follow along or so that they can interpret those instructions and by default become creative with it. They can create things that I haven't thought of because I've shared it, right? And in doing so, I actually discovered other techniques that I then didn't have time to share, which generated more content, which is related to my brand. And of course, builds my authority and builds my brand. So creative thinking is really, really important. Am I confident posting on YouTube? Not at all. Am I confident going live on YouTube? No, to be perfectly honest, I feel really nervous about it. Is anyone else drawing fire in Canva? Not that I know of. So in that way, I'm doing something that's different. And even if it's not different, it's different for me, right? It's different for me. And as far as I know, it's different for my audience. And does this kind of thing boost my brand and reputation? The evidence points to yes, absolutely. I've been doing this now consistently for a little while, and the results are ticking in rather magically. So, do you want to? Oh, I got to go pick up my son. So do you want to be more creative? Then go ask yourself, how can I? Don't worry about not knowing, figure it out anyway, and then do the thing, share the thing, and take some time to explore. If you personally want some help with your branding or with your creative processes or with your content creation and styling, then get in touch and let's see if we can work together. In the meantime, I'm going to go and do the school run. It's now half term. So have a lovely weekend, everyone, and I'll see you all soon. Take care and bye-bye. Now I've got to try and find the off button, which is somewhere around here. There it is. There's the end broadcast button. Okay, thanks very much, everyone. Take care and bye-bye.